All right, here we go. Let's start the session. Today we have Sri Ramananji Ramanan, who is very popularly known as one of the catalyst of the whole incubation effort, innovation effort in the country. He's here with us to walk us through on the most premier institute that the country has built called Atal Innovation Mission. He was the first mission director, and also the impact of the AIM on the whole country before the AIM and after the AIM. So it's become like a very important milestone for the country or an era, a epoch for the country where innovation will be spoken about before AM and after AM. Thank you so much, sir, joining in. I'm very glad to have you here. I also welcome all my guests from AIMA and YLC and other members who joined in. We have almost about 100 people today. The participants are about 100. Very excited to have you all. Welcome again, Ramanan ji. I'll give you a brief intro of Ramanan sir. Ramanan sir currently holds the position of chairperson for the National Expert Advisory Council within the DST space. So he looks at technology, incubation, innovation as the paradigm shift that the country is looking at. And as chairperson, he's delivering, or pushing the country towards becoming much bigger innovation center than it is today. So you can imagine already we claim a very premier spot in the world order, but there's plenty more to be achieved. And Ramanan sir is one of those important personalities who are really driving it further ahead. And beyond that, he also works with multiple other institutes and agencies to help them out. So he's also an innovation advisor with ISBA. ISBA is a premier body which encompasses all the STEP incubators across the country within the universities. He's also the chairperson of NZTE, New Zealand Trade and Enterprises, where he's a part of the advisory board as well. He also works, helps the UVA, which is a UNICEF India Advisory Council, as a leadership capacity there. And then there's plenty of them. I don't think I can finish it in 1 hour introducing Ramanan sir to any audience. And he's seen as one of those gentlemen who's come from the private entity. He's worked with the TCS for about 40 years, and then coming over to the government side to really move the needle for the innovation sphere. I think there's wealth of insights and information that you can derive from him today. Excited to have you here, and it's a privilege to host you here, sir.
Thank you, Santosh, and it's a great pleasure for me to be with all of you. And I want to thank you for your very generous introduction. It is always a delight for me to be able to interact with fellow innovators or people who would like to be innovators and startup founders, because I do think that that is the way forward for our country. And not only for our country, it is also true for the rest of the world. So I'm delighted to have an opportunity for interaction, and hopefully this will be constructive as well as beneficial to all the audience who has so gracefully agreed to attend this particular webinar.
Thank you so much again, sir. And if I missed out any part of your introduction, my apologies for that.
No. I think you've been very generous in the introduction. No problem.
Yeah. And just to give some context about myself, I'm Santosh Kumar. I'm the national chairman for the current year with the Young Leaders Council of AIMA. AIMA is the mother body which encompasses various other elements, local management associations, and also various epic body for the various Institute of Management Studies. So our goal essentially is to really build in a large, powerful mid-management layer of the country at YLC. And we hope to play a part in moving the country's management ecosystem further ahead from where we are today. And I'm very excited to have you all. I thank you all, my audience. We are about 120 people joined here on a Friday evening. Thank you so much for joining us. I'll keep it as exciting as possible. And with Ramanan sir here, it's just that I'm going to be on the listening mode. I'll switch over quickly to the listening mode with my first question. Ramanan sir, from the private corporate world, how did you make a switch over to AM? What is the background to that? If you can just enlighten us, that would be great, sir.
Yeah, it's a very interesting journey, and I also think a very fortunate one for me. Actually, I joined TCS in '81 after graduating from IIT Bombay. And then TCS itself was an entrepreneurial organization, as all of you know. At that time, it was around 400, 500 people when I joined. So today it is a giant with over 7 lakh people as a part of the organization. And it's now among the top 3 global IT services company in the world. So that itself was a very, a great learning journey for me. But what happened in 2001 was a CMC, which was Computer Maintenance Corporation, one of the largest and finest public sector IT services organization of India, was put up for privatization by the government at that time. And that was one of the first large companies, or called the Navaratnas, which was put up for privatization. The Tata Group made a bid for it. I was part of the think tank to acquire that particular company. And fortunately, that company was acquired by TCS. And I was then deputed as the MD and CEO of that particular company. So CMC operated independently. It was a public sector organization. To those of you who are not aware, CMC was an organization which did the computerization of Indian Railways. They did the first computerization of the stock exchange. They did the computerization of the first depository in the country called CDSL. They were responsible for computerizing all the various ports in the country, the marine and container handling, cargo and logistics management, warehouse management for ports. They were also responsible for the first biometric solutions for the police forces of our country, and many projects for the defense and so on. So it was a remarkable company, though it was a public sector company, but very innovative and had a slew of products. And product development and innovation was part of what I was interested in and what I was part of in TCS also. We developed the first local area networking product called Falcon, during which I was the project leader for that particular project. And so this was something that was very exciting for me, to see how we can take CMC and globalize it from a domestic government-oriented company to a private sector organization. Between 2001 to 2016, the company ran separately and independently, listed on the stock exchange with 51% ownership by the Tata Group and 49% by public and financial institutions. In 2016, the company had grown to a point where it made sense to amalgamate it fully with TCS and have it as one integrated organization. So CMC was amalgamated into TCS in 2016. Just at that time, the Atal Innovation Mission was formed by the current Prime Minister of our country, Narendra Modi ji, who had this vision of how do you boost the innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystem in India and make it a very, very attractive place for our young students who are graduating from universities to be able to innovate, to create solutions, to create startups, to create a nation of job creators, not just job seekers. And that was the larger vision of the Atal Innovation Mission. One was to create a problem-solving, innovative mindset in the students who are coming from schools into universities, and from universities into the industrial or job ecosystem. And the second one was to create an ecosystem that will support entrepreneurs and support their ideas and be able to flower and blossom these ideas into a startup. So at that time, the think tank, excuse me, because my throat is a little bad. So at that time, the government or the Prime Minister's office was looking out for somebody who could head this particular mission, but who had private sector experience as well as public sector experience. And so I fortunately filled that particular bill of both the public sector and private sector experience by my work in TCS and the work that I was doing for CMC. And so I got seconded by the Tata Group. They approached the Tata Group and I got seconded by the Tata Group to run this as the mission director, the founding mission director. And that's been one of the most fulfilling journeys that I have been able to participate in. It brought together all the things that I learned in the private sector as an entrepreneurial organization, and then the public sector of how do you convert that and leverage the tremendous talent that is there in the government into into a global system integration organization, and then working fully with the government as an additional secretary at the Niti Aayog. Niti Aayog is the National Institution for Transforming India, and that's the think tank of India. And Atal Innovation Mission was housed at the Niti Aayog so that it could work with all the ministries and all the departments of the government to be able to boost innovation and entrepreneurship in the various ministries, in the various states, and across the country.
Absolutely brilliant journey. I'd say looking at 40 years at a private entity, like you said, a listed government, entity, but taken over by private Tata Group, and then coming back to the government fold and on a mission mode, truly mission mode, I would say, to transform India. Has I think it's India has been fortunate to have you at that pole position today, sir. So a quick question I have. I mean, the structural working mechanisms will be very different when you are in a corporate side of the world versus when you're actually driving a mission like this. What were the key differences that you felt in your working model? What are the challenges, and how did you overcome that, sir?
Yeah, you're very right. In fact, in the private sector, the decisions are very quick. The CEO can take a lot of decisions, not only from the point of view of the direction of the organization, but also the financial part and all of that stuff. Also, in the private sector, you don't have so many procedures. It's up to the CEO to create the procedures, make it very bureaucratic or make it less bureaucratic. In a government, however, I realize not only the need for the bureaucracy, because when you're with the government, you're dealing with a very, very large country. You're not just dealing with a particular company. In a private sector, you need to become more and more exclusive. And what I mean by that is a company in the private sector is having a very strong focus. Let's say you're working with TCS, then it is in IT and IT services, and you are now seeing how do I ensure that my service reaches some of the best companies in the world, and how do I ensure that they become my clients. And so you become very exclusive in nature. When you are in a government, you start becoming very inclusive in nature. Whatever you are doing for a small, a set of people, you need to see how am I going to replicate this across multiple entities, multiple states, multiple cities, multiple geographies, multiple villages, and so on. So the nature of your job has to continuously take in the large span of people that you are trying to bring benefit to. And that's a big challenge for the government. And that is why you have this bureaucracy, because when you're looking at the expenditure that happens in a government, they are of a completely different level as compared to the expenditures that happen in the private sector. Sorry, excuse me. So what happens is, as a result, for me, the great learning was, one, the possible impact that any work that you do in the government can have. Whatever you do, and if you do it well, it starts scaling up. And when it starts scaling up, you see the impact. And that is one of the most rewarding aspects of the work that you do. You see the number of lives which get affected if you do some good work. You see the positive outcome, and you see a mechanism by which it can scale across. So we are a very large country, 1.4 billion people. We have, for example, 1.4 million schools. We have 10,500 engineering and related institutions. We have 39,000 colleges. We have over 150 million young students who are going to be entering into the workplace over the next 5 to 10 years. We have 650,000 villages. We have 715 districts, out of which 115 are called aspirational districts, because they are at the bottom of the pyramid in terms of basic access to healthcare, education, clean drinking water, sanitation, waste management, or affordable housing. We have 8,000 small towns and cities, and we have only 8 tier 1 cities. And everybody is migrating to these 8 tier 1 cities for improving their lives and improving their quality of their lives and to find some meaningful work and so on. So we have a big challenge. And so when we talked about when Atal Innovation Mission was formed, I realized very quickly that I may start off with a certain number of schools for setting up tinkering labs, a certain number of universities for incubators. But the real challenge is, excuse me, the real challenge is, do I have a model and a replicable model and a scalable model that can scale across the rest of the country? Do I have something, can I create a model which is not so exclusive that it doesn't have the ability to scale, or it's not so customized that it doesn't have the ability to scale? And therefore, this is the biggest difference. And you also realize the need for bureaucratic intervention, because you have various states and you have various cities. Excuse me. Unfortunately, I got this sore throat and a cough today of all the days. So, as a result of it, you start appreciating the bureaucracy and the bureaucratic limitations that have been put up, because you cannot be liberal with the money that you are handling, and you have to make sure that it goes to the right purpose and serves the right cause. And so that was a big learning for me. The second learning for me was that, the government, just like my finding with CMC was a brilliant organization, a very innovative organization. And actually, if you see all the government units that have been set up, whether it is ISRO, whether it is defense, whether it is BEL, BHEL, and so on, there is tremendous talent in these organizations, public sector organizations. And they are filled with people who are very capable, but who need that opportunity for expressing themselves in a different environment, and their leadership matters. And what I was able to bring from the private sector was a healthy respect for merit, because in private sector merit is very important, whereas in government, bureaucracy operates on seniority. And very often, very capable people do not get the opportunity to express themselves. And I was able to bring that culture into the workings of Atal Innovation Mission. And we had very young people who were working with us. And people were amazed at the output that they could bring and the scale with which we could develop. So those were some very good aspects of private sector that I was able to bring into the operations of the Atal Innovation Mission.
That's very exciting to know that. I mean, I think over the last decade or so, I think there are more lateral entries that are happening, which is bringing that private sector expertise into the government fold. While the government, initiatives really work at population scale. I'm borrowing a term that Nandan Nilekani, often uses at the scale of work or operations or execution is at the population scale here. Uh, so one thing I just want to highlight to my audience is the impact broadly. If you look at it from the AIM, Atal Innovation Mission, before that we were in 2015, India was ranked 81st on the Global Innovation Index. This year we are ranked at the 39th level, 39th rank in the world. So there's plenty of kudos and congratulations should go to Ramanan sir and the team to really push that envelope further ahead and in building the true innovation at the grassroots level. It's not just about creating the unicorn mentality around, but also about really thriving in the entrepreneurial world. I think India goes way back into the millennium where we were known as a land of entrepreneurs, right? If you look at our whole, export ecosystem that existed, we held about close to about 25% to between 25 and 33% is what India held in the world trade much before, for the last two millennia. And today, I think we are at the cusp of claiming back our past glory. And the AM is one of those entities that have really created the charm around entrepreneurship and also enabled a lot more knowledge and the ability to really go and build out there. So, sir, I'm trying to understand also when you talk about scale of building this, what was the initial objective? What were you trying to achieve? Because there's no comparison in the world where something at this scale was set up or something that at that magnitude was executed. What was the initial objective, and how did you go deploying those, or the implementing those required, toolkit to enable the ecosystem?
Yeah. So you brought out a very good point, Santosh. The fact is, from 2017 or 2016, we were at 81 in the Global Innovation Index, and today we are at 39. And the Global Innovation Index, if you study it closely, is not based just on how many startups are there or how many unicorns have been created. It is a very comprehensive analysis of the impact that innovation has on various states. There are a number of states and number of cities, the districts, you have a number of parameters related to the health, hygiene, education, job creation, livelihoods, cleanliness, etc., and all of that. There are a number of parameters. And they look at comprehensively how innovation is helping in the improvement of these parameters. And therefore, the fact that India has risen up from 81 to 39 is a great testimony of the positive impact and the constructive impact innovation is having across the country. The question that you asked, what was our initial vision? Actually, the vision was large. The vision was never small. The vision was, how do you create an ecosystem, very vibrant ecosystem of innovation and entrepreneurship across the length and breadth of the country? And what did we mean by that? We meant that at the school level, you have to start. You cannot just produce entrepreneurs just like that from the drop of your hat. You need to be able to create a culture of innovation and entrepreneurship right from the young students at school. So we said this has to begin somewhere. The impact of innovation you're going to realize even more over the next decade. In fact, the true impact of all the initiatives that the government of India has done through the Atal Innovation Mission and other initiatives that have subsequently sprung up, you're going to see the real impact of it in the next decade. And that will be a tremendous impact. Already it is quite impressive in terms of more than 117,000 startups which are there, more than 117 unicorns which have come up. We are the third largest startup ecosystem in the world. But I will not be surprised if within the next 10 years, we are among the global top 10 in the GII, Global Innovation Index. So from 39 to go to 10 can become a possibility within the next 10 years for India, because this is growing exponentially. So it's not a linear or curve on the graph. Now, the objective was very simple for us at the beginning. The first objective is create this innovative problem-solving mindset in our school students, in our university students, and the students who are entering into the industry. That is number one. And create this problem-solving innovative mindset, leveraging the tools and technologies of tomorrow, not the tools and technologies of yesterday, but of tomorrow. So that is why we said all these Atal Tinkering Lab should have do-it-yourself kits with 3D printing, robotics, IoT, miniaturized electronics, augmented reality, virtual reality, and cloud services, and so on. And we created do-it-yourself kits. We actually worked with universities like MIT and Stanford, the IITs here in India, and other national institutes of technology. We worked together to come up with a do-it-yourself kit package. And that package was implemented in every Atal Tinkering Labs. And all of this was done by, the specifications were drawn, the specifications were put out on the web. We were a very small team. When I joined the Atal Innovation Mission, we were just 4 people who were part of that organization. And so we were a startup ourselves within the ecosystem. And therefore, the appreciation of what a startup encounters as it grows was there for us right from the beginning, because we were a startup in the making, right? And so the Atal Innovation Mission grew with the help of course, the government support. But we realized that this sort of government support should be there for every startup. And therefore, the other plan was, how do you create incubators in universities which are supported by the government, which are funded by the government, and where this incubator would foster 25 to 30 startups every 2 years and allow them to stand up on their own legs, so that they later on don't need the support of the government, but they are able to grow on their own. So the whole idea was to create a vibrant ecosystem of entrepreneurship in the universities through incubators, and to create a problem-solving, innovative mindset in the schools and universities through the Atal Tinkering Labs, the Atal Tinkering Challenges, Atal Tinkering Marathons, hackathons that we ran across the country, challenges that we started running across the country, so that people get sensitized that these are the problems and these are the opportunities for them to be able to exercise their creative thinking and come up with solutions which can then become a startup or which can become a company on its own. You see, India has never lacked for great innovators, great scientists, great engineers, great thinkers, or great even artists. You have a Satya Nadella heading Microsoft, Sundar Pichai heading Google, you have an Arvind Krishna heading IBM, you have a Parag who was heading Twitter at that time, and so on. So all the Indians who have gone to the US or to other parts of the world, advanced parts of the world, they have risen to the very top of the best organizations because they have an ecosystem that is available for them to blossom their full creative potential. The vision of the Atal Innovation Mission was, how do we create a model, such a model in India, of a very vibrant ecosystem of innovation that will allow our engineers who are graduating from the schools or management schools, our management students, to become job creators and startup creators. And once we provide that ecosystem, the students now have a choice. Students graduating from the universities, they only go for the placement. And while placement is good, but that's not going to carry us too far, because there are only so many companies that can help in the placement. What we need to address the challenges of India and the opportunities of India, more than the challenges, the opportunities that India has, is to enable thousands and thousands of startups to be created and become job creators so that they can employ the rest of the people. So it's a very holistic approach that we took. And for us, the beginning, when I went to Atal Innovation Mission, the goal was somewhat modest. We were thinking of 500 tinkering labs, 25 incubators, and so on. But my own conviction, having worked in CMC, TCS, and so on, was that we really had to scale this up into a much bigger number. So we had a discussion. We had an MHLC called the Mission High Level Committee, which met every quarter, on board meetings, like a formal board meeting, just like how we run in the corporate sector. And during that, some of the finest minds in the world are part of that MHLC committee. And we were able to discuss and say, let's scale this up ambitiously much more. And so the idea was, we moved from 500 to 5,000, and 5,000 to 10,000 tinkering labs. We moved from 20 incubators to 72, and then now to 102 incubators. Then we also set up community innovation centers in tier 2, tier 3 cities of India, so that we have community-centric innovation that will help that particular community leverage the local talent in that community. For example, if you're in Goa, how do you boost the fishing industry, the shipbuilding industry, the mining industry, the tourism industry, or the cashew nut industry? Those are industries in Goa. So we want to boost the innovation in that particular part of that world, in those areas, and thereby enable the local people to get more jobs and use their competency. If you're in Jodhpur or you're in Jaipur, there is a lot of handicraft industry in and around that place. So how do you give opportunity for those handicraft industry to have e-commerce startups and be able to market there from Jodhpur to Japan, or from Salem to San Francisco, or from Sikkim to Seattle? Because of global connectivity, we can do that. So these were all the thoughts that went into the development of the various initiatives of the Atal Innovation Mission, which included tinkering labs in schools, incubators in universities, community innovation centers in tier 2, tier 3 cities of India to have community-centric innovations, Atal New India challenges to enable people to understand, the youngsters to understand that these are the challenges that various ministries have. We worked with the ministries and we worked with the industry partners to identify those challenges and evaluate the solutions that came out. And we gave grants to these winners of these challenges so that they can commercialize their product, or they can convert it from an idea to an MVP, and from an MVP to a commercial product. And we also worked with the MSME industry in launching a series of challenges called Arise. And Arise is applied research and innovation for small enterprises, because we have over 4.8 lakh crore MSMEs in the country. And these MSMEs are going to be the source of tremendous innovation, because they operate at a very small level of components and so on and so forth. We import still 80% of the electronics from the rest of the world. Why cannot we manufacture that in India? And these MSMEs have ideas about how to do that localization of manufacturing or make in India, but we need to support that. So we launched the Arise challenges, and these Arise challenges were targeted towards MSMEs who could use the grant to convert their idea for local manufacturing and local make in India products. And so these all initiatives we launched with a model that is scalable and replicable on its own. So today, what you're seeing is an expression of that. You're seeing universities now, they don't necessarily rely on the Atal Innovation Mission funds. They are setting up incubators on their own. You are seeing schools setting up tinkering labs on their own because they see the value in that. You're seeing hackathons and challenges being launched by various universities and by various government agencies, so that you are spurring the development of new products and new solutions. So that was the idea, to create a sufficient mass which will reach a tipping point, and that tipping point will allow the initiatives to scale up on their own. And that's what we try to do.
Brilliant way to look at a flywheel. But Ramanan said, I'm going to take a step back and I'm going to try and understand, when you talk about a multitude of changes, you're really looking, not just looking at the school level, you're looking at college level, you're looking at entrepreneurship that can lead to job creation. So there are multiple stakeholders in this, right? We have the government,
Yeah.
we have the industry, we have the academia. Plus, I would say the parents also, right, who play a very key role in, if the parents really don't want their children to be entrepreneurs, then all of this, or if their focus is only to look at the marks, end of the day in the school, then the motive will be taken away from the kids from really looking at these adult tinkering labs. There are 10,000 tinkering labs, there are 100 plus incubators out there. How difficult was it to get a buy-in from various of these stakeholders, the government, industry, academia, and also the behavioral thinking of the parents?
Yeah, it's a very excellent point that you have raised, Santosh. The big challenge in India has been that we are a country in the making. And when you're a country in the making, nobody wants to take risk. Most of us have come from very ordinary backgrounds, you and I. I grew up in Adarsh Nagar in Mumbai, in a very, very average, I would say, middle class rising economy at that time. My parents came from villages, and you see the ability for us to take risk, the mindset to take a risk is not there. We feel that taking a risk of not taking a job and doing something on your own, it's very risky and it can result in a downfall and so on. In India, many people, if they know that in the north, of course, now it is no longer like that. But in those days, if the boy was doing some business, the girls' parents would shy away from offering their children in marriage to that boy, saying that, he's not having a government job or a stable job and so on. So a Tata company or a government job is much better and so on. And I worked now in both. So I guess I was lucky that my wife agreed to marry me. But that's the sort of mindset that was there. But today it's a completely different environment. We are one of the fastest growing economies of the world. We are growing at 7.5 to 8% per year, and we are going to grow at 8 to 10%. We are one of the youngest countries in the world. So we have 65% of our people under 35 years old. We have 50% of our country under 25 years old. And that's a tremendous amount of youthful energy coursing through the nation. And so the peers who are there, all the students who are there, they can form small groups and create companies. If somebody has a brilliant idea, you can find two or three other young students who are interested in backing it up or supporting it or adding value to it and so on. We are also living in a world where technology has become affordable, accessible, available, and advanced. We have 3D printing revolutionizing the way you are able to conceptualize, design, define, and develop a product right in front of your eyes. You don't have to go to a large manufacturing company and do that. You can do it in your garage. You can do it in your kirana store. You can do it in your lab in the school or in the university. So you are now having advanced technology and affordable technology and accessible technology to everybody. So when you have this combination of a fast-growing economy, why is a fast-growing economy important? Because fast-growing economy enables venture capital funds to be made available. There are a lot of people who have created a lot of wealth, and they would like to ensure that that wealth can generate more wealth. And so they are willing to invest in great ideas and so on. Now, all of this, we were very clear, even when we were setting Atal tinkering labs in schools. Many parents were worried, what is this tinkering lab and whether it is going to add value to the students' marks in the exam. And we have to tell them this will add, in fact, your child will become even better. But look at the innovation that this child has created. Look at the creative genius of this particular child. You had a girls' school in Salem It's there in the YouTube. You should look at that. The Prime Minister interaction with this girls' school in Toothukudi in Salem. Those of you in the audience, just search for Atal Tinkering Lab demonstration from Salem Girls' School. This girls' school, 8th standard and 9th standard girls created a solar panel IoT-based irrigation management system for the farmers in Toothukudi in Salem. Now, say Toothukudi is a coastal district of Tamil Nadu. And it's brilliant what these children created. How did they create that? Because you empowered them with the tools and technologies of tomorrow. And you gave them a little exposure of what it means to do problem solving. And so these students, their parents are farmers, and the farmers have this problem regularly that there is lack of water, sufficient water in that region. There is a lack of electricity because of electricity power cuts and so on. So obviously a solar panel, sensor-based technology, integration, IoT-based irrigation management system, which would just give enough water as the crops need based upon the type of crop that is being done or that is being grown. That was the innovation done by 8th and 9th year students, and they tried it out with the farmers, and the farmers are actually planning to use it. And then we tied them up with a local incubator and a startup company, and hopefully, the solution will find expression in the market. So that's the sort of possibility that happens when you are doing this. So what we used to do was we used to run these Atal Tinkering Challenges and Atal Tinkering Marathon, an annual marathon. We'll call all the parents to see the innovation of their children and to tell them how brilliant their children are. And suddenly the parent realizes that, oh, I didn't know that my daughter or my son is capable of doing this. And that changes their mind. And they now want to support it, and they want to, and there was another surprising thing. Some of the best innovations came from the backbenchers in the class. It was not the people who were scoring rank 1 to 10. They were from students who were scoring ranks 20 to 30 or 40. Why? Because, innovation is not necessarily a function of marks that you get in the exam. And many people are interested in innovation, and they have very sharp minds, but they may not be interested in a particular subject and so on. But innovation drives an interest in that subject. When you are trying to solve a problem, suddenly you realize that, oh, I need to know more about this subject. I need to know and understand how GPS works better. For that, I need to understand how physics works. And for that, I need to have some mathematical knowledge. So automatically, all of this, in fact, there is a study that we launched, and hopefully the results will come only after some time. The study we launched was, what impact have Atal Tinkering Labs on the scholarly academic performance of the students, right? And I'm sure we already found that many people became more sharp academically because they had to know that knowledge, the theoretical knowledge, in order to be able to understand how that innovation can become better. So these were some of the things that we did in order to dissuade people from, or parents, or even school teachers. We had to run this to the school. Even the school management was wondering, what is the use of all of this, right? Because we didn't give marks for any of this. We didn't want to associate this with marks. And you know what we found? The students who were running to the Atal Tinkering Lab during the recess hours and during the off hours, because they got so interested in, tinkering with all these technologies and creating solutions. So this is something that, we then try to spread the message across to the parents. And similarly in the universities, the parents come and see what the children are doing. And so there are many engagements we did, community related engagements, where parents could also see and school teachers could see, and then companies could see the benefit of partnering with startups. One very important thing I should share is during COVID-19, when COVID-19 struck India, March 20th, we said, oh, there has to be, what can we do as Atal Innovation Mission and various units of the government to address this problem that was facing the country. So we said we need preventive, assistive, and curative solutions for COVID, right? So we launched, there was a special group task force which was formed, and I had the good fortune to head that group to search for solutions that will help during the COVID-19 crisis. So we launched a challenge and reached across to the entire community of corporates and others and the startups. To our surprise, we found 1,500 startups came up with solutions. They pivoted their solutions, whatever they were doing, to address the COVID-19 crisis in terms of preventive, like for example, sensor-based technologies to ensure that you don't touch objects and they could automatically ring the bell and so on and so forth. You remember the scare that was there, that everybody was even afraid to touch something. They're afraid to go out of their houses and so on. Then the system was developed for COVID tracking. Covin was developed and so on. So these were all startups. So we found 1,500 startups, but we didn't find many corporates coming up with solutions. So it was a startup world which responded brilliantly to that. But then the corporates were willing to support these startups. So we started this interaction between corporates and startups and partnership. And today, I think corporates really value the innovation that is coming out from the various startups, and they are eager to embrace them, eager to support them, eager to invest in them, eager to even buy them out if possible. And I think that environment is getting created now.
Absolutely heartwarming to know that a lot of these grassroots level, rural level, and also young entrepreneurs really chipping in to create the difference that the country needs when at a testing time like COVID-19. Just to share, I was also part of the committee in Bangalore. I worked with the municipal government here to build that back end, as simple as a back office operation we set up to really monitor the hospital beds. Right? I mean, that system was not even existing or not even thought of. But suddenly, when the COVID hit, all of us had to really jump in and support. One thing that comes to my mind, sir, when you talk about the grassroots level innovation, right? How do you make it more sustainable? Because we see a lot of things on news and TV where one or two, innovation, getting some visibility. Be it like what we've seen in Kerala, where a couple of the coconut tender coconut removers essentially they are not like from any school or any engineering background. They're essentially built up their own tool to really help them climb those trees and easily remove those the tender coconuts from the tree. So some of those grassroots, and we know that it gets covered in some news here and there, some excitement around that, but it doesn't get commercialized in a country like India, right? uh, did the AIM Atal Innovation Mission play a role there? Are there any examples that you can share about how these really got commercialized beyond just some sparks of genius here and there?
Yeah, no, actually, the whole idea of setting up all these incubators was to formalize this process of being able to recognize innovation, an innovation like the one that you mentioned about, the coconut growers in Kerala and so on, and see how we can actually scale it up. See, the problem is there is a lot of jugaad that happens in the country, and jugaad is not necessarily a scalable, reliable innovation. It is an innovation to solve a particular problem at that point in time, maybe crudely also, but it is still an innovation. The idea is, can you take that particular idea and create a replicable, a scalable solution, which is leveraging technology now, because you have technologies which are like 3D printing and so on and so forth, which can really help in creating a device which is much more reliable, or a solution which is AI driven, which will make it even more reachable and so on and so forth. So the idea of setting up all these incubators across the country, and today we have more than 1,100 incubators in India. It's not just the 100 which have been set up by Atal Innovation Mission, but DST, DBT, MEITI, all of these people have sprung to this, and they have created incubators, and various ministries are also setting up, like the Ministry of Agriculture or ISRO or Ministry of Defense through IDEX, Innovations for Defense Excellence. They're also setting up incubators and centers of excellence across the country. So these centers provide the vehicle for the startup, the innovation idea, to be able to crystallize into a product. And the idea of setting up an incubator is to eliminate the various valleys of death in the startup life cycle, because a startup dies, it's a great idea, but by the time it reaches the market, there are many valleys of death in the startup life cycle. Lack of proper research, lack of technical support, lack of mentoring support, lack of funding support, lack of HR people, the right team to be built, lack of marketing support, and so on. And so what happens is these startups, when they are not supported at these various places, they do not succeed in the marketplace. And the whole idea of commercialization of an idea or of a startup is to provide the necessary support through the incubators, through master classes, through accelerators that are being set up. Now, MeitY, for example, has launched a scheme for supporting accelerators. Startup India has started the SISF scheme, which is the Startup Innovation Seed Funding Scheme for seed funding. And then bringing the venture capitalists and investment people into these incubators so that they can recognize a good idea and they can further support it. So these are the mechanisms by which the idea gets converted into a commercially viable startup. Not only that, we started off with innovations for defense excellence for defense, IDEX, to those of you who know it. IDEX now gives the opportunity for startups which they have funded. If their solution works for any of the requirements of the defense, they get the first preference because they have been government funded. The solution is reliable and good. They get the first opportunity, and many conditions related to the procurement of that solution are waived if you're a startup which has been funded by IDEX, because and thereby they get access to a market which is otherwise very difficult. You know, the normal processes in the government for bidding for a project with multinational companies bidding for it and so on, it becomes very difficult for a startup to win such a project. But now IDEX has created the mechanism, and Startup India is also easing it and so on. So the ability for startups, not just, so for example, if you are a startup and if you're listed on GEM, which is the government e-marketplace, they get the first preference to be able to sell their product. And unless their product doesn't meet the requirements in some manner, then only that agency in the government is allowed to go outside and procure from somebody else. So there have been various mechanisms which have been formed to ensure that not only are these initiatives helping in the commercialization of the product, but also in the procurement of the product, and thereby enable that company to succeed, providing them an initial platform and an initial opportunity for sales, which is so very important for the product to establish itself in the market and to have referenceability. So these are all the things that is happening. Now, recently, the government has also initiated DST has launched translational research to commercialization, translation of research to commercialization. So there is a lot of research that is happening in universities, and the government funds most of these research. The Prime Minister has been very particular that the applied research component should find itself expression in the marketplace. And so there is a special scheme which has been launched by DST to be able to convert a research idea, applied research idea, to an innovation and into a product. So there are many initiatives related to that too.
Thanks so much for walking us through. I think there's one question that someone from the audience had asked about the various fundraising opportunities for startups, and also there's one more question from Dr. Ramesh Raina, who asked about how to seek funding from AIM. I think we broadly covered those two aspects, that with all these schemes from MeitY, Startup India, as well as DST funds that are available for setting up the incubators, and thereby also promoting investments or equity grants through the incubators to the startups directly. So that's, I think we've covered those two questions. There's one very interesting question
I also think, one of the things that I'm seeing, how I've been talking to some of the government agencies and all, is how do you make people aware of all the schemes? Because not many people are aware of the schemes. There are hundreds of schemes out there, women entrepreneurship, particularly innovations for the differently abled people. Many of these are supported by the government, and there are many schemes especially for that. And so people are not aware of it. One easy way is really track the websites of the key ministries and the key organizations like DST, DBT, Startup India, Invest India, Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Defense, and so on, Ministry of Transportation. They launch these challenges on their website, and they have grants for them, or they have seed funding grants for them, and so on. But also now many private organizations like SPJMR has launched WiseTech, and WiseTech is launching a challenge for the students, Ideathon for all the students in climate change and sustainability. So there are many NGOs, there are many universities in partnership with corporates, large corporates. They are willing to fund a good innovation to reach a point of an MVP. And from that MVP, you will start finding, I mean, MVP is a minimum viable product. And from that point, you start also getting the interest of investors and corporate organizations to further support and commercialize that product.
Thank you so much for that. I've just also shared that as a comment in the comment window for everyone to look at in the chat window. Some of these government websites are really, your way to track and identify what are the relevant schemes are there, and thereby explore the suitability or fitment for yourself to apply for those. Moving ahead, there's a very interesting question by Arpan here about the regional imbalance, right? When we look at the Atal community being built out, the Northeast, versus the other part of the India, maybe there's a bit of startup ecosystem imbalance or innovation imbalance. How did Atal Mission look at setting that right, the regional imbalances?
Yeah, so one of the things we are very conscious about is all these initiatives should spread across the country, not just be located in the urban parts of the country and so on. In fact, Atal Tinkering Labs, 70% of the Atal Tinkering Labs are in government-aided organizations or schools. 30% is only with the private schools, because we felt that government and government-aided schools should be an important recipient of the grants. Similarly, 70% are women, girls, or co-ed schools. So to make sure that the girls get a gender equality is there and the diversity in terms of innovation is enabled. The incubators where today we have Atal Tinkering Labs in over 680 districts out of the 715 districts of our country. Over 680 districts have Atal Tinkering Labs. And the ones which we don't have, actually, we didn't find, it was an application process. So people had to apply. And so obviously, there is a gap in the application there, or the minimum conditions that need to be satisfied in order to avail of an Atal Tinkering Lab. Because the idea was not just to gift a tinkering lab to anybody. The idea was you really should know how to operate it. You should have some minimal resources to be able to run it properly and to achieve the objectives of creating a very innovative set of students. If you are not able to provide a plan for that, then you have to think about it and you have to apply for it again. And so that was the thing. But today I'm very glad to say that over 680 districts of our country have Atal Tinkering Labs. And in many states, all the districts have. If you see Maharashtra or Karnataka or Tamil Nadu or Rajasthan and so on, almost all the districts have Atal Tinkering Labs. Similarly, for incubators, we ensure that all the states would have. The community innovation centers were more from the point of view of tier 3 cities or tier 2 cities. We have today 25, I believe, Atal Community Innovation Centers. But the idea is every district should have a community innovation center. The Prime Minister came up with one district, one product slogan. And the idea was many of these districts have something which is unique in that particular district. And that unique aspect should express itself as an innovation, a product or a service that can come out from that district. And so the vision from my point of view is, or which can be, is that every district should have a community innovation center and in a hub and spoke arrangement. Only if you do in a hub and spoke, the ability to grow within a particular state and within a particular district also happens. So we actually have now a very strong, one of the things about what Atal Innovation Mission did was really created a tremendous network, not only of the Atal incubators. All the Atal incubators are in constant touch with each other. They learn from each other. They share best practices. They share resources. and so on. So that's one very big thing. Previously, previous to 2017, that it's not that incubators were not there. We have had some of the institutes have incubator, but they were all solo. They were operating in silos. And what we tried to do was ensure that these people operated as a network. Not only we created the network of incubators, but we connected them with the Atal Tinkering Labs and the Atal Community Innovation Center. So it's a much larger network now. Students who get recognized in Atal Tinkering Labs get an opportunity to have an internship of 8 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks in an incubator or even in a corporate. More than 40 corporate partners, international partners, were created with Atal Innovation Mission. We also created partnership with other countries. For example, between Australia and India, we regularly, on an annual basis, launch a circular economy challenge. Between Denmark and India, there is a water challenge. Sweden and India, there is healthcare challenges being launched. So we have given them the ability of reaching across the borders and co-innovating for the benefit of both the countries and of the world. So there are many things that we are doing to ensure that the linkages between the various initiatives in a very positive, reinforcing manner and a value-adding manner is being created.
That's really wonderful to know the whole, we're not just looking at grassroots. If I were to coin a term, I would say grassroots to global is probably the journey that, Indian innovation should really look at, really helping the world and stop just thinking about our own local environment. We should look at our global environment where you can really thrive. So we've really delved deeper into now, how the whole AIM was built and what are the impact that has created. Now let's try and do a crystal ball gazing of the future. Now, where do you think all of these initiatives will lead to? You briefly touched upon saying that we might look at a GIA ranking of 10 in a decade or so. Anything else that in terms of the milestones that you think we will achieve in the next coming decade or 2 decades, basis the effort that you're putting?
I think India is at a tipping point, and within the next 10 years, this tipping point will accelerate the growth of our country as a knowledge-based economy. We are living in an increasingly knowledge-driven economy with AI and all the other things happening. And I do think India can become a leader. It will become a leader. I don't think it will become. It's not just a possibility, but it is a certainty that we'll become a leader for many reasons. One, our students are among the brightest in the world. There is evidence of it when they go abroad. They get selected by the topmost universities across. The professors from these colleges and schools are Indians who are teaching. So the ability of the Indian community to be able to express its intellectual capability as well as its hardworking nature is going to find expression in the world. I am sure that we can be among the global top 10 or within the global top 10 most innovative countries of the world. And the third thing that I feel is we are also doing everything to ease business. The ease of business index has also improved. By the way, we didn't talk about that. But I think we have come from a position of about 162 about 4-5 years back to a position of 61 or 62 right now. And so that again is a journey which is very important, because as you become innovative and as you create a world of startups which are going to contribute to the Indian economy as well as to the rest of the world, we also need to ensure that we become a very easy place to do business for. Not only for the Indian companies and the startups, but also for global companies. Because a healthy mix of Indian and global companies will create partnerships which are value-adding, it will increase competitiveness, which is very important from a market point of view, and it will increase quality because you are competing among the best in the world. So, you don't want to create a protected economy where you're not able to compete with the best in the world and therefore not able to, address the challenges and needs of the global market. So I am incredibly positive about the impact that all of these will have. And I really think, for example, the tinkering labs, and as we scale up those initiatives of those nature, we are going to see even more Nobel laureates coming out, because more than innovation, it is also struck a chord of research. Students do a lot of research now in order to see what I can innovate on. And that aspect of research is strengthening within the organizations, within the school system itself. So, but there are challenges. The challenges being, I listed out the challenges in the beginning itself. We have still 22% of our country, or probably now about 15% of our country below the poverty line. We have 40% of our country, which is agri-economy based. And we have 115 districts, which are aspirational districts at the bottom of the pyramid in terms of basic access to healthcare, education, and clean drinking water. But again, these challenges, from my point of view, are opportunities for the startups and for the entrepreneurs to address and create solutions which will not only solve that problem, but which will create wealth for themselves and for society. So if we look upon why is it that all the countries are flocking to India and are keen for a partnership with India? Because we are a country of 1 billion people with 1 million challenges, but 1 million challenges are 1 million opportunities for the rest of the world to pursue. And if we don't enable our own young students to pursue those opportunities and to capitalize and win those, we'd have done ourselves a big disservice. So I think this is a great opportunity for India. We are already having a $250 billion ITS industry, which is required for a knowledge economy. And now we leap on that. We stand, as Isaac Newton said, we stand on the shoulder of giants. So now we are standing on the shoulder of giant IT companies. And how do we leverage that for reaching out to the rest of the world and making the startup story a success, and thereby create large companies too? Because every startup doesn't remain a startup. It grows into a very large company if successfully addressed. So that's the opportunity, and I feel very, very positive about the whole thing.
That's really brilliant, and the way you put it across, saying that 1 million opportunities, 1 million challenges turn into 1 million opportunities for us. So that brings me to the end of the session. So I'd like to really thank you for taking your time out, sir. This has been so informative and so exciting for me to just sort of living your journey through your words, and just to look at the whole impact that has been created. And we're right, like I said, we are probably at the very early stages of the whole growth economy that we are looking at. We are just about 10,000 ATLs that have created this impact. Let's look at how much a million of these will create in 1.4 million schools that we have, and look at futuristically how our entrepreneurs will really drive the whole economy and also enable a good life for many of us who are not even. I mean, everybody doesn't have to be an entrepreneur, but can be recipients of the fruits of these entrepreneurship that others are building out, and can make life much better for everyone across the world, not just in India. From, I know, like I said earlier, maybe grassroots to global is the mantra that we can follow with all the partnerships that you've built out, and hopefully the world will be a better place to live in. Thank you so much, and I'm really grateful to have you here. It's a pleasure asking these questions and getting these nuggets of information, knowledge for all of us. And I also thank my audience here. Over 150 people joined from various parts of the country with entrepreneurial and academic background. And I really thank you for joining us and sharing those questions. There are more questions. Probably we'll reach out to Ramanan sir separately and try and get answers to those questions as well on a separate note. Any last words you want to say, sir? Thank you.
Thank you, Santosh. And it's been a pleasure answering to your questions. And they have been very thought-provoking questions from your side. There's one aspect that I just want to emphasize. And while in the talk, mostly I talked about entrepreneurs and startups. What is more important is to create an entrepreneurial mindset. And even if you're seeking a job, even if you're going to a company, if you have an entrepreneurial mindset, you add tremendous value to that company and to that company's innovation. And so I think not everybody needs to immediately become an entrepreneur. But if you have an entrepreneurial mindset that you cultivate right from the beginning, which is what we are trying to do, then at some point in time, keep in mind that you have the benefit of education, you have the benefit of training, you have the benefit of some work experience and so on, which can all result in you starting on your entrepreneurial journey. May not be immediately after college. There are some people who are ready to take the plunge after college, and I do encourage people to do that. I just want to everybody to know that 2 years of startup stint immediately after college or engineering graduation or whatever will add more value to you, to any company, than just 2 years as a trainee in that particular company, because there you're going to do something limited. Here in a startup, if you have an idea, you cannot just start a startup like that. You need to have an idea, you need to have some clear thinking. But if you have that, you become such a rounded individual at the end of 2 years, because you are from conceptualization to design to development to you're the CEO, you're the HR person, you're the technology person, and so on and so forth. You have to play multiple roles, and therefore that adds a lot of value. And so don't be afraid to take that plunge if you are thinking of taking the plunge. But even if not, if you have this entrepreneurial thinking and mindset, at some point in time in your life, you are ready to launch into your own entrepreneurial journey. And that's what we are finding actually. A lot of people who have gone to work 4 to 5 years, they would like to come back and have a stint at the entrepreneurial journey because it's so exciting. And I can tell you, once you start on that journey, you won't go back to the normal job. I just want to end with this, that we are living in one of the most exciting times of our country. From the point of view of all the things that I said, the economy is growing, the landscape is changing, the opportunities are emerging, the ecosystem is being created, the mentorship is there. A lot of people who have gone abroad who want to come back into the system and contribute to the growth of this economy and the growth of the startups. So all the things, it's a very nice environment right now, which is there. And so make use of it. And I'm very happy to receive any questions on my LinkedIn or on email or whatever from anybody, and help them in their journey. That's something that excites me, and that's what I'm dedicated to now. I'm not doing anything else except to help students, universities, or even organizations to rev up their innovation. And that's something that excites me, and happy to support you in any initiative that you have or you would like to suggest. So thanks,
Thank you.
Santosh, and it's been a great interaction, and I'm very, very happy.
Pleasure is all mine, sir. It was exciting speaking to you, and thanks to my audience. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you again for a new session around innovation and entrepreneurship. And feel free to look up YLC, Young Leaders Council, and we'd love to have more of you join Young Leaders Council as a member and contribute to the ecosystem. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you,
Yeah,
Raman.
happy Diwali to all.
Happy festivals, happy Diwali to you.